The night lay heavy over the valley, the kind of night where the stars seemed sharp enough to cut the sky, and the forest carried a silence broken only by the whisper of the wind. Emma, the orphan girl, had grown used to the silence. It was the only companion she knew. Her days were spent gathering firewood, mending what little she had, and listening to the world as though it might one day reveal why she had been left to wander it alone. That evening, as dusk sank into the black of night, she should have returned to the cabin where she sometimes slept, a shack abandoned by travelers long ago, but something kept her in the woods. She carried a bundle of dry sticks across her back, her small frame dwarfed by the tall pines around her. The air smelled of pine sap and damp earth, and though her belly ached with hunger, she was more aware of the strange stillness that pressed down on the land. It was then she heard it. A sound so faint that at first she thought it was the forest playing tricks on her tired mind. A cry. Not the shrill call of an owl or the distant howl of a wolf, but a human cry. A child's. Her heart leapt inside her chest, and for a moment she froze, listening, wondering if loneliness had finally made her imagine voices where none belonged. But then it came again, a fragile wail carried by the wind, so full of fear that it pricked her skin with gooseflesh. She dropped the bundle of sticks without thinking. Fear told her to leave it, to run, to pretend she had not heard, because the forest was no place for a girl alone at night. But something stronger than fear, something born of years of abandonment and longing, moved her feet forward. She had once been the child who cried in the dark with no one to hear. She would not leave another soul to that fate. Step by step, she followed the sound into the shadows of the trees, her bare feet finding the faint paths where deer and foxes trod. The moon, rising pale and broken through the canopy, guided her way as she bent low to search for signs. Twigs bent, grass pressed flat, tiny footprints no bigger than her own when she had first been left to fend for herself. Each mark on the earth told a story, and Emma, with the instincts of a child who had survived on her own, read it as though the land spoke to her. The tracks were erratic, meandering, the prints pressed deep where panic had pushed the child into a run. She quickened her pace, branches clawing at her arms, roots tripping her toes, but she did not stop. The cry came again, nearer this time, broken into hiccuping sobs that made her chest tighten. She whispered into the night, her voice barely carrying, "You're not alone. I'm coming," though she knew the child could not hear her. Hours seemed to pass in that endless pursuit. The forest grew thicker, darker, the air colder. Shadows twisted around her, and every rustle in the underbrush reminded her of the dangers that prowled at night. Wolves, bears, perhaps worse. Yet the thought of the small, frightened voice ahead drove her forward. Hunger gnawed at her belly, thirst burned her throat, but she pushed on, guided only by the fragile thread of sound that tied her to the lost one. At times the voice vanished, swallowed by the forest, and fear clawed at her chest that she had lost the trail. But then, in the hush, she would kneel and press her palm to the earth, reading the disturbed soil, the snapped ferns, and she would rise again with renewed resolve. In those moments, she was no longer a wandering orphan, she was a hunter, a tracker, someone with purpose. She did not know how much time had passed when she stumbled into a clearing, her breath ragged, her feet sore. The cry had grown weaker, like a candle guttering in the wind, but it was close. She strained her ears, heart pounding, and then she saw it. Movement beneath a fallen log at the far edge of the clearing. She crept closer, careful not to startle, and her eyes widened as the shape of a small boy came into focus. His hair was long and dark, his skin marked with dirt and tears, and he trembled so violently that his little hands clutched at the earth for something to hold. His eyes, wide with terror, met hers like a startled deer. For a moment, neither moved. The boy's lips trembled, his chest heaving with sobs, and Emma felt the weight of his fear press into her bones. She knelt slowly, lowering herself to his level, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "It's all right. I won't hurt you." She stretched out her hands, palms open, the way she had once wished someone had done for her. The boy flinched at first, curling into himself, but she did not move closer. She stayed still, letting him see her, letting him choose. Finally, with the kind of bravery only the desperate can muster, he reached toward her, his tiny fingers brushing hers as though testing if she was real. Emma smiled faintly, though tears burned her eyes, and she wrapped her shawl around his small shoulders. The boy sagged against her, his sobs muffled in the cloth, and she held him tight, whispering words she had longed to hear in her own childhood. "You're safe now. I've got you. I won't let go." Around them, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the silence no longer heavy but reverent, as if even the trees understood the weight of that moment. Emma knew the hardest part was yet to come, finding her way back through the endless maze of trees with the boy in her arms, but for the first time in her life, she felt something stronger than hunger, stronger than fear. She felt purpose. She was not just an orphan girl anymore. She was the one who answered when a cry went unheard. And with the boy's trembling hand clutching her own, she stepped back into the darkness, ready to carry them both toward the faint promise of dawn.